Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive in some serious market action?
Always up for a good deep dive.
Today we're looking at President Trump, tariffs,
Oh, yeah, this should be interesting.
and how all of this is shaking up, the entire financial world,
It's definitely a lot to unpack.
especially, for Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah, it's fascinating how interconnected everything is.
We got a bunch of sources for this one, including this podcast from Dubai
Oh, cool. I haven't heard that one.
called Blockchain DXB.
Okay.
So let's jump into it.
Sound good.
Okay, so President Trump just slapped these tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China,
Right. A lot of people are talking about this.
citing things like illegal immigration, the flow of fentanyl.
Yeah, he's even calling it a national emergency.
But the Blockchain DXB podcast host, Josh,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
thinks there's a bit more to it.
Okay, yeah. So what are these tariffs exactly?
Well, it's a 25% tax on goods from Canada and Mexico, and then 10% on stuff from China.
Okay, so pretty big hit for those countries.
But get this energy from Canada that gets a lower 10% tariff.
Interesting. So why is that?
Well, think about it. A lot of Bitcoin mining operations rely on cheap Canadian electricity.
Ah, that's right. So
Oh.
if those energy costs spike, it could really mess with mining profitability.
Exactly. And this whole thing really shows how connected everything is, like global systems, economics, tech.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the ripple effects.
So Josh from Blockchain DXB, he's saying that Trump is playing 4D chess or something.
4D chess. Okay, I'm intrigued.
He thinks that Trump has already secured all this investment from other countries,
That's a pretty bold claim.
which gives him leverage in this whole trade war thing.
So he's saying that securing investments, especially in cutting edge areas,
Right, like artificial intelligence.
yeah, that could give President Trump a significant advantage.
Exactly. He might be betting that these countries need to renegotiate with him to keep access to those investments.
Yeah, that's a really thought-provoking theory.
He even says this whole thing might be good for Bitcoin in the long run.
Okay, I mean, we were just talking about how it could hurt mining.
Right, but his argument is that these trade wars make investors nervous.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
People don't like uncertainty.
And they start looking for safer places to park their money.
So, historically, that's been gold.
Exactly. But now Bitcoin's entering the picture.
It's definitely becoming a more mainstream option.
Okay, and get this. Blockchain DXB points out that the volume of stablecoins,
Stable coins.
you know those cryptocurrencies that are pegged to regular currencies?
Right, tethered to the US dollar.
Exactly. Well, those have gone through the roof in the last few days.
Oh, wow. So people are making moves, but they're not fleeing to cash just yet?
It seems like they're parking their assets in crypto that's designed to hold its value.
Yeah, so hedging their bets in a way.
It makes you think maybe Bitcoin is becoming like a hedge against governments, doing their own thing.
That's interesting.
And this idea is getting more traction as people start to worry about inflation.
Right, and potential limits on moving their money capital controls.
Exactly. And whether these traditional financial systems are even that stable,
Yeah, it raises a really crucial question. Is Bitcoin actually evolving into a shield against government overreach?
I think that's a question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah, and those concerns about inflation, the potential for limits on how you can move your money.
Yeah, it definitely fuels that narrative.
And then the doubts about the stability of traditional finance, all of that contributes to it.
Right. And Blockchain DXB brought up this kind of funny thing.
What's that?
CoinMarketCap, that website that tracks all the crypto prices?
Yeah, of course.
Well, they're tracking this new thing, the top American tokens by market capitalization.
American tokens specifically. That's kind of odd.
Yeah, the podcast host, he thought it was a little ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the whole point of crypto to be decentralized?
Exactly, borderless and global.
So why are we suddenly focusing on national borders?
Right, but it does make you think about how national interests
Yeah, I see what you mean.
might actually end up influencing the future of this technology.
That's true. It's something to keep an eye on.
Oh, and the top 5, just so you know, are Ripple, Solana, USD Coin, Dogecoin, and Cardano.
Interesting mix.
But getting back to the tariffs for a second.
Okay, yeah, back to the main event.
What specific impacts do you think we might actually see?
Well, let's break it down. There's the potential for inflationary pressure, first of all.
Right, like when tariffs make imported goods more expensive.
Exactly, and that can push inflation higher.
And historically, when inflation goes up, people start looking for ways to protect their purchasing power.
And Bitcoin, with its limited supply, is often seen as a hedge against that.
Yeah, so we might see increased demand for Bitcoin if inflation really takes off.
That's a very real possibility. Another thing to consider is just the market uncertainty.
Right. All of this back and forth and nobody really knowing what's going to happen next.
Exactly, and that makes investors nervous. It pushes them towards assets that are seen as safe havens.
And Bitcoin being decentralized outside of traditional financial systems could look pretty good during all this turmoil.
Oh, absolutely, especially with all the geopolitical and economic instability.
But on the other hand, some people argue that trade wars can sometimes lead to a stronger U.S. dollar.
Yeah, because investors flock to it as a safe haven.
And a stronger dollar can, at least for a while, put downward pressure on Bitcoin prices.
That's true. So it's not all sunshine and roses for Bitcoin.
So maybe a short-term dip is possible, but if inflation really takes hold, then the long-term outlook for Bitcoin could be a lot brighter.
That's a reasonable assessment.
Yeah.
We also have to think about the impact on countries like China, Mexico, Canada.
Yeah, that's a good point. Josh from Blockchain DXB, he was talking about how if these countries face economic instability because of the tariffs,
Oh, yeah, that could really push people towards crypto.
then their citizens might turn to Bitcoin for cross-border transactions.
Right, and as a way to safeguard their wealth.
Especially in countries that have a history of capital controls.
Exactly. Or where people are worried about their savings being wiped out by inflation.
Or currency devaluation.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors at play here.
So we've got potential impacts on inflation, this market uncertainty.
The U.S. dollar and maybe even increased adoption in the countries that are being targeted by the tariffs.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in. But what does all this mean for, someone like me?
What do you mean?
Someone who's interested in crypto but trying to understand this whole, complex world.
Well, I think the crucial thing to remember is that we are witnessing a major shift.
A shift in how we think about money and finance.
Exactly. Whether you agree with what President Trump is doing or not, the impact is undeniable.
Yeah, this could reshape the entire global economic landscape.
And Bitcoin and crypto are right in the thick of it.
So it's a big deal no matter what your stance is.
It's going to be fascinating to see how this all unfolds and what role Bitcoin and crypto ultimately play.
I think a lot of people are holding their breath.
It's an evolving world, and we're all just trying to keep up.
Okay, so we've talked about, global economics, but this deep dive wasn't just about that, right?
That's right. There's some pretty interesting developments in decentralized finance.
Oh, yeah, DeFi.
Exactly. Uniswap, one of the leading decentralized exchanges, just announced version 4.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And the whole crypto community's buzzing about it.
I bet Josh from Blockchain DXB was pretty excited.
Oh, he was all over it. He thinks Uniswap V4 is going to be cheaper, faster, and way more customizable.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah. One of the criticisms of DeFi has been that it's just too complex.
And expensive.
Right, those high transaction costs can be a real barrier.
So if Uniswap V4 delivers on its promises, it could make DeFi a lot more accessible.
To a much larger audience, for sure.
Exactly.
And potentially more appealing to institutional investors, too.
Oh, and he even speculated about them integrating AI for customer support.
AI for customer support, that's an interesting idea.
Imagine that it could be a game changer for making DeFi more user-friendly.
Yeah, it could really help onboard new users, make those platforms more intuitive.
Exactly, and that's a huge step towards mainstream adoption.
Definitely something to watch out for.
Okay, so tariffs, Bitcoin as a safe haven, the world of DeFi.
A lot going on.
But before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, there was one more news item from Blockchain DXB I wanted to hit on.
Okay, what's that?
Tether.
Ah, Tether, the biggest stablecoin out there.
Right. Well, they just released this report showing a $13 billion profit for 2024.
$13 billion. Wow, that's a huge number.
And they highlighted that they now hold this record amount of U.S. Treasury bills.
So they're basically saying they're more stable than ever.
Yeah, one of the largest holders globally, in fact.
I guess that makes sense with those profits.
But Josh, he raised this interesting point.
What was that?
Tether released an attestation report, not a full audit.
Oh, so not the full picture.
And he seemed kind of concerned about that,
Yeah, an audit would give a much more thorough and independent look at their financial situation.
Exactly. It's just a good reminder that in crypto, transparency is everything.
Absolutely. Trust but verify, as they say.
Verification is key.
It's a good point. I mean, in the crypto world, you always want to be looking under the hood, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Attestations are fine, but full audits are definitely better.
Yeah, you got to trust but verify.
Exactly.
So we've got this potential for global economic chaos. Bitcoin maybe stepping in as like a safe haven.
Right.
And the DeFi space just constantly innovating.
It's moving so fast.
It really makes you think about the bigger picture here.
Like how the whole narrative around Bitcoin has shifted.
Yeah, it started as this fringe experiment almost like cyberpunk.
Right, and then it gained traction as a potential digital currency.
I remember when Bitcoin was mostly about buying pizza online.
Oh yeah, the good old days.
But now it's like we're seeing with these tariffs.
It's a whole different conversation.
Bitcoin is being seriously considered as a hedge against inflation, government overreach, economic instability.
It's like it's finally stepping onto the global financial stage.
Makes you wonder what the next chapter of the Bitcoin story is going to be.
Right, like will we see mainstream adoption?
Yeah. Will governments try to embrace it, control it, or both?
Could it actually become like a global decentralized reserve currency?
That's a big one.
I don't think anyone has the answers yet.
That's what makes it so captivating, though, right?
Absolutely. It's constantly evolving, and the possibilities are endless.
Speaking of evolving blockchain, DXB also touched on some interesting developments in AI.
Oh, yeah, artificial intelligence. That's a whole other can of worms.
Joe mentioned this big event happening in Dubai called AI Everything Global.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. It's all about how AI is transforming industries and economies worldwide.
It's bringing together leaders in AI, policymakers, investors,
All the big players.
to discuss the future of this rapidly advancing technology.
It's moving so fast, it's hard to keep up.
And it seems like the Middle East, particularly Dubai and Saudi Arabia,
They're really making moves.
they're trying to become major players in the AI landscape.
We're seeing significant investments in AI research and development in that region.
Josh highlighted how Saudi Arabia is planning to invest like $600 billion
$600 billion, that's a huge number.
in new U.S. investments over the next 4 years,
Wow.
focusing on expanding trade and capitalizing on, the anticipated economic prosperity from President Trump's reforms.
So they're really betting big on this relationship with the U.S.
It shows how serious they are about becoming a global leader in tech and innovation.
And that investment follows the $500 billion Target project.
Right, that huge infrastructure initiative involving the UAE.
It seems like there's a coordinated effort to drive economic growth and technological advancement in the whole region.
It's like they're prepping for a future where AI is just woven into every part of our lives.
Yeah, like healthcare, transportation, finance, you name it.
I mean, we're already seeing AI's impact in so many areas.
And events like AI and everything global are just speeding up that transformation.
By encouraging collaboration, innovation, investment.
It's mind-blowing to think about how much the world has changed in just the past few years.
It really is. We've got this convergence of cryptocurrencies, blockchain, tech, AI, global economic shifts.
All happening at once.
It's a remarkable time to be alive.
It is, but it's also a time where we need to be really careful.
Right, like staying informed, thinking critically, having these open conversations about the future we want to create.
It's more important than ever.
It's easy to get overwhelmed by all the information and the speed of change.
That's why resources like the Blockchain DXB podcast are so valuable.
They break things down in a way that's easy to understand and engaging.
It helps us connect the dots, see the implications, make better decisions.
Okay, so we've gone from tariffs and Bitcoin as a safe haven to the rise of AI in the Middle East.
It's been quite a journey.
What's next? What else did Blockchain DXB have for us?
Well, Josh also talked about another interesting development in DeFi.
Oh, right. Uniswap version 4. He seemed really excited about that.
Yeah, he thinks it has the potential to be a game changer.
It introduces something called hooks, which are basically modular plugins.
Right, so developers can customize how liquidity pools, swaps fees, even liquidity positions work.
So it's like giving them a set of building blocks to create all sorts of new DeFi applications.
Exactly, and that's a big deal because it could lead to a whole new wave of DeFi products and services.
Tailor-made for specific needs and use cases.
Right, and he also mentioned that Uniswap V4 is aiming to drastically reduce gas fees.
Oh, those pesky transaction costs.
Yeah, this could be a real pain.
Lower gas fees could make DeFi a lot more appealing to a wider audience.
Especially those who've been hesitant to jump in because of the cost.
And it could also make it easier for developers to create more complex and sophisticated applications.
It's like removing a barrier to entry for both users and builders.
So that's why Josh believes that Uniswap V4 has the potential to redefine the future of decentralized finance.
It's all about accessibility, customizability, efficiency.
It sounds like they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with DeFi.
They are, and it makes you wonder what the DeFi landscape will look like in a few years.
Right. Will it become more integrated into our everyday lives?
Will it challenge traditional financial systems?
Yeah. Will it create entirely new forms of economic activity?
Those are great questions. And while it's impossible to predict the future with certainty,
Yeah, nobody has a crystal ball.
one thing is clear. DeFi is evolving rapidly, and it has the potential to disrupt and reshape the financial world as we know it.
It's exciting and a little bit daunting at the same time.
But as we've learned today, the best way to navigate these uncharted waters is to stay informed, ask questions, and embrace the journey.
Well said. And with that, I think we've covered the main points from the Blockchain DXB podcast.
We've explored tariffs, the potential of Bitcoin as a safe haven, the rise of AI in the Middle East, and the exciting developments in decentralized finance.
It's been a deep dive indeed.
A lot to digest.
But I feel like I have a much better grasp of what's happening in these interconnected worlds of global economics, technology, and finance.
That's the goal, to equip you with the knowledge and insights to navigate this complex and rapidly evolving landscape.
And remember, we've linked to the Blockchain DXB podcast and the White House fact sheet in the show notes.
So be sure to check those out if you want to explore these topics further.
And as always, we encourage you to continue your own research, ask questions, stay engaged.
It's like we're standing at the edge of a new frontier.
It is exciting and uncertain.
But that's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah, it really feels like we're at this crazy crossroads, like where so many different things are converging.
Like what kind of things?
You know, like tech, finance, global politics.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's almost hard to keep up.
It's a fascinating time to be watching it all unfold.
Totally. And speaking of shifts,
Okay.
Josh from Blockchain DXB brought up something interesting about Polkadot.
Polkadot, what about it?
And an ETF.
An ETF. Okay, I'm listening.
He mentioned that 21 shares,
They're a big player in the crypto ETF space.
right, a firm specializing in, cryptocurrency exchange-traded products,
Right.
filed for a Polkadot ETF in the United States.
Interesting. So that would make it easier for institutional investors to get in on Polkadot.
Exactly. And that could be a major boost for adoption.
Yeah, definitely more and more institutional money is flowing into crypto these days.
So it would be like buying shares of a gold ETF, but without actually owning the physical gold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
ETFs provide a familiar and regulated way for investors to gain exposure to assets like Polkadot.
Right. Especially those big institutional players.
Yeah, they're more comfortable with that kind of structure.
Makes sense. But Josh also mentioned that 21 shares already has a Polkadot ETP,
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
which is similar to an ETF in Switzerland.
How's that been performing?
He said it hasn't been that successful so far.
So why would a Polkadot ETF in the U.S. be any different?
That's a good question. I mean, there's definitely growing interest in crypto in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still a pretty unpredictable market.
Yeah, regulations are still evolving, and investor sentiment can change quickly.
So whether a Polkadot ETF or any crypto ETF for that matter really succeeds.
It's going to depend on a few things.
Right, like regulatory clarity
Investor appetite.
and the overall market conditions.
A lot of moving parts.
So it's a bit of a gamble.
Well, in a way, yes. But 21 shares is making a calculated bet
On what?
that the demand for crypto exposure.
It's especially for altcoins like Polkadot.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to continue to grow.
And if the regulatory landscape in the U.S. becomes more crypto-friendly,
Well, then their bet might just pay off.
it's amazing to see how all these pieces fit together.
I know, right?
Global economic shifts, Bitcoin's rise, DeFi evolving.
And now potentially this flood of new crypto ETFs.
It feels like we're witnessing the birth of a whole new financial system.
It's an exciting time to be involved in this space, that's for sure.
It's full of potential, but
Yeah.
there are definitely risks too. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like with any investment, you got to do your research.
Yeah, understand the tech, the market, and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
That's good advice. I think
Big
this
fun
deep
one.
dive has given me a lot to think about,
Me too.
and I'm sure it's the same for everyone listening.
Hopefully.
We've covered so much tariffs, Bitcoin as a potential safe haven.
The latest in DeFi, the possibility of a Polkadot ETF.
It's been a whirlwind.
But it all comes back to this fundamental question. What role will crypto play in the future of finance?
Yeah. Will it go mainstream? Will it disrupt traditional systems?
Will it offer a haven from economic turmoil?
I guess only time will tell.
It's going to be an amazing ride, though.
And thanks to resources like the Blockchain DXB podcast and the White House fact sheet,
We have the knowledge and insights to make sense of it all.
we've linked those in the show notes if you want to learn more.
Definitely check those out.
And as always, we encourage you to do your own research, ask questions, stay engaged.
It's a constantly evolving space, so staying informed is crucial.
On that note, we'll leave you with a final thought as you follow all of this.
The evolution of crypto and the global financial landscape.
Ask yourself this: what role do you want to play in shaping the future of finance?
That's a great question to ponder. Until next time, keep on diving.